Welcome to the KJ Methods YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if you find them useful. Well, today I'm going to talk about joint tenancy versus tenants in common. I thought that I was done with this versus series, but just this week I had a couple of students who were still very confused by these two concepts, and they're very important for you to understand. And so I decided to do yet another video on the differences between two confusing topics. Joint tenancy and tenancy in common are also known as concurrent ownership. Concurrent meaning more than one person is holding this property at the same time. Okay, so let's first talk about tenants in common and what the key topics are relating to a tenant in common. First of all, I want you to use the word common because this is really the most common form of ownership that we're going to have. When two people go to the closing table, they don't say what they want, we're going to just give them tenants in common. Why is that? Because it is the easier one to follow. There's not many rules relating to it. You can kind of own the property in any amount of shares that you want to own it in. And when one of the tenants in common passes away, then their share goes to their heirs. And so it's passed down through their family. This one can be created by operation of law. And what does that mean? It means that if you don't say it, we're automatically going to give you tenants in common. And so for the national law, I want you to just assume, unless it says something else, then you're just going to assume that the parties have a tenants in common. So then what's the difference between that and joint tenancy? Well, in a joint tenancy, what we say is it comes with the right of survivorship. In fact, I like my students to remember it, joint tenancy with the right of survivorship. That way that they remember that it has this right of survivorship. So what is that? It means that if there are two joint tenants and one of them passes away, then whatever their share was, it's going to go to the surviving joint tenant. So let's think about that for a second. It cuts off your heirs if you decide to do a joint tenancy. And because it cuts off your heirs, we don't generally give people joint tenancies by operation of law automatically, right? We only give them joint tenancies when they specifically say that this is what we want, because we know that you're not going to be able to give it to your heirs. Right at the point of death, your share is going to transfer to the other surviving joint tenant. Because of that, we say that a joint tenancy can never be willed. It can never be willed, right? Because at the point of death, it is already by operation of law been transferred to the other person. So you cannot give your joint tenancy away in death. And also, no one can come into the joint tenancy after it's been created. So let's look at them in a side-by-side comparison. If you look here, in order to create a joint tenancy, what we say is you must have PIT, P-I-T-T. So if you look here on the left-hand side of the slide, you will see you need to have possession. What does the possession mean? It means that all people have an equal right to possess the property. Then we look at the I. What does the I mean? It means interest. All joint tenants must have an equal interest in the property. And so if your test question says there are 4 joint tenants, then you know it's 25, 25, 25, 25. You need to know that. T is for time. All joint tenants must have acquired the title to this property at the same time. And the other T is for title. There is only one title in a joint tenancy. Everybody together has that one title. Now let's look at it from the perspective of a tenancy in common. Notice that it only has the P. That's the only unity of title. We call them unities of title. It's the only one that is shared by both of them. The P in a tenants in common, it says, regardless of how much you own, again, you have an equal right to possess it. But when we talk about the I, interest, no, you can own it in any interest that you want. It doesn't have to be equal. Time, you don't have to acquire the title at the same time. You can come in much later into the tenant in common. If the people already have formed it, you can just join it afterwards. And then the last one would be title. We say that in a tenants in common, there are as many titles as there are owners. And so if there are 5 owners, then there will be 5 titles, one separate title for each one of those. In either one, you can file a partition suit. You're looking for the word disagreement if there's a disagreement between the parties. And additionally, anybody, it doesn't matter if it's in a tenants in common or if it's in a joint tenancy, you can sell, you can give, you can mortgage your share. But here's the key. In a joint tenancy, you cannot will it. You cannot ever will a joint tenancy because a joint tenancy avoids us going to probate court, because don't forget that as soon as you die, that property is going to be transferred to the other person. That same thing doesn't happen in a tenants in common because it is going to go to your heirs. Okay, so hopefully that clarifies these 2 points for you. They are actually pretty big topics that we will test in ownership, and hopefully you got a good understanding of them now. Well, once again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to all you know who may be interested trying to pass their real estate exam. Once again, thank you for coming to the KJ Methods YouTube channel, and I will see you next time.